The Orthos used to be my primary PvP cruiser. I've had this ship since its release on last August, and to date the Orthos remains one of my most successful ships in the game. I think it's on the second place right after the Belgorn, which means I have around 3,000, 4,000 kills with the Orthos. Now, I've experimented with the builds on this ship quite a bit, and it's basically one of those cruisers that is favoring DPS over tank. The Orthos, like the other model ships, have little to no tank. Now, since the release of Implants, I've been very curious to see what kind of monster I can create with the Orthos. I know that the missile implants are very fun to use, and they improve the missile damage application a lot. So first let's quickly take a look at the ship info just in case if anything was changed. The roll bonus minus 50% missile torpedo flight time, plus 200% missile torpedo flight velocity, plus 1 warp scrammer strength. Okay, that's the same. Advanced medium missile torpedo pressure bonus will give you plus 6% medium missile torpedo damage, plus 5% medium missile torpedo explosion velocity, and the advanced cruiser command bonus will give you plus 10% disruptor and scrambler range. So basically very nice stats for PvP, very nice stats for PvE as well. The damage application on this little ship should be really good. Now the Orthos has 1 drone, 6 high slots, 4 medium, 4 low slots, 3 combat and 3 engineering rigs, a very small cargo hold capacity. The defense 22,000 is definitely not the best. The Orthos is a shield tank, although in most cases the Orthos will not have a tank because these things are paper thin. 2830 gigajoule is the capacitor, which is honestly not the best. The recharge time is really long, 612 seconds, recharge rate per second 11.56. It can lock 7 targets, 94.1 meter is the signature radius, 325 skin resolution, 22.8 center strength, flight velocity 255 meter per second. Now the Orthos is not the slowest, but at the same time not the fastest faction cruiser. It's right in between I think it's in between the Cinnabal Vigilant on the 3rd place, although it's definitely not slow, but at the same time it's not that fast as well. Now on to the builds. Now this Orthos has torpedo launchers, 145.81 cold DPS. Now the torpedo launchers are nice, and I have a specific build with torpedoes on the Orthos, the torpedo troll Orthos. That thing was ridiculously fun to use, although at the same time very risky because of its non-existent tank. And the current range is 29.32 kilometers, which is actually pretty solid for torpedo launchers. This is without the implants, only with the rigs, and that's a decent range. Well within the scrambler range, which is around 20.68 kilometers, or runner up at 21 kilometers, 45 kilometer disruptor range, 20.63 kilometer is the scrambler. With a torpedo build, I prefer to use a Nosferatu and capacitor battery, just in case if you start taking damage, to sustain the capacitor for as long as possible. Although the capacitor on the Orthos is not the best as well. So these are the two things that are not really good on the Orthos. Now with torpedoes, I like to use dual scramblers. You have 10 points of strength, which is more than enough to hold most targets nowadays. If they have 9 stabs, you have 10 points strength, which is enough to hold them. Now as for the rigs, you can play around with the missile damage application or missile velocity, or basically combine all that with rig integrations. I personally like to combine things on the Orthos, although not really necessary, but if you want to have a combination of rigs and if you want to maximize the performance, then you can go with rig integrations. And here, as you can see, I have basically the same rigs as I have on the Typhoon 2. And this combination is actually quite terrifying if you combine this with the implants. Should have some really nasty DPS for a cruiser and should have some really nasty damage application as well. The flight velocity on missiles on the Orthos, or should I say on all Mordor ships, is going to be ridiculous. They have the fastest missiles in the game and they should have one of the best missile applications in the game. Which is unfortunate because the Typhoon 2 can actually out DPS the Space Pen in some cases, although both ships are kind of unique in their own way. Now these are the normal medium missiles, and the stats on them look really nice as well. The range is actually quite impressive. You can get up to 120 kilometer range, normal range, with the normal missiles without the use of the guidance computers, and that is something also quite scary that these things can do. And with this build, I prefer to have dual points, Kremler web, and a micro object, basically a long-range kite. This is the classic Orthrus build that you will see around, and this is the classic PvP Orthrus build, although, funny enough, this can also be used in missions with the exact same build, because this thing can easily avoid incoming fire from 45-60 kilometers. Without the implants. With the implants, that is going to be improved dramatically. And with the rapid missiles, now with the rapid missiles we can actually get some really hilarious numbers. I will show you what I'm talking about. The rapid missiles are used against interceptors, destroyers, small frigates and cruisers, against battlecruisers, battleships and big boats like that, torpedo launchers or normal medium missiles. However, you can get some ridiculous numbers with the guidance computer on the Orthos if you use the exact build that I have, and with rapid missiles. Now, I will try to break the record of the smallest explosion radius in this video. My record is 9.4 meters on the Typhoon 2. So, what do you think? What's going to be the explosion radius on the Orthos? Well, we will find out very soon. Now, as for the implants, the Warhead charge implant will work flawlessly on the Orthos, one of the best implants for this ship, should I say for any missile ship, honestly. And as for the missiles, I usually pick explosive and thermal missiles. The thermal missiles are for shields, the explosive missiles are for armor and hull. But of course, depending on your target, you can change that into EM and kinetic missiles. Depends on what your goal is, depends on the target and things like that. You can also have an impact if you like to run missions with this ship. Sometimes the right ammunition can be a decisive factor. Now, as for the general units, this is where things get fun. The Orthos needs capacitor, so the capacitor battery unit will be very useful. Tracking, guidance computer unit, also pretty useful if you like to use rapid missiles. The ballistic control unit for DPS, also quite useful, so you can use that. Afterburner or micro object unit as well are pretty good, and you can also use Nosferatu strength unit to sustain the capacitor for as long as possible. So you can counter the drawbacks of the ship by the use of these units, and of course you can choose the units that you need for the ship depending on the build that you want to use. Now, I like to have the explosion radius as small as possible to improve the damage application as much as possible. Now, let's actually take a look at the active stats on the Orthos, on this Orthos with the current build and with the current setup. 3.2 kilometers per second, which is not bad. With an nano core you can get that up to 3.6 kilometers per second, which is okay. Not the fastest, but not the slowest. It's quite speedy, so I'm not going to complain about the velocity on the Orthos. It's not that slow. With the long range missile mode, 50.76 kilometer range on the rapid missiles, the DPS is 557.30, my apologies. With the precision mode, the DPS remains the same. However, the explosion radius 10.76 meters. Yikes. We are getting some good numbers. We are getting some very nice numbers. 275 meters per second is the explosion velocity, and the radius 10 meters. Okay. Now let me show you the DPS mode. Explosive missiles loaded in. 831.51 DPS with the rapid missiles on 35 kilometers, I think. 39.5 kilometers. Okay. 39.05 to be more accurate. Okay, and with the precision mode and with the explosive missiles loaded in, 673.43 DPS, 10 meters explosion radius, 39.05 is the range, and with the guidance computer activated, 5.2 meters. Okay. Yeah, you're not outrunning this. You're not running away from this thing. 372 meters per second is the explosion velocity. Okay. 39.05 kilometer is the range on the rapid missiles. Yeah, interceptors, frigates, small things will have a very bad day if they encounter a ship like this with this build. This is with only one guidance computer. Let's slap a second one. Let's see what ridiculous number I will get. I'm actually excited to see what kind of monster I'll create today with this thing. Okay, second computer installed. Let's take a look at the stats. 20.41 meters, 179 meters per second. Okay, the range is the same. Let's go into precision mode. 10.21. Okay, with both of the computers active. 2.76 meters, 461 meters per second explosion velocity. I do not want to get hit by this if I'm flying a frigate or a cruiser. I will apply most damage. And if they fly in your scrambler and web range, they are doomed. Even if the frigate is orbiting at long range, you will have enough range to actually hit it with the long range mode on this little ship. Yeah, the Orthos became a lot more lethal with the implants and with the units. It's not that the implant is making it broken; it's the unit that's making the stats on this thing ridiculously broken. Okay. Okay, let me just see the DPS with this current build. Now, in most cases, the guidance computer can be useful if you have to kill something annoying like an interceptor or a ship that is hard to get to. So yeah, that's basically one of the ways how to build this ship. Although I think only one computer is actually enough. You need to have the battery because the capacitor on this thing is actually not that good. So a capacitor battery will be very useful and very important on the ship in order to last for a very long time on the grid. Now with a DPS build, 866.07 DPS with the explosive missiles, 1052.54. With one ballistic control, the DPS is 1284.22, and with the second ballistic control, the DPS is 1502.17, which honestly for rapid missiles is more than enough to deal with most ships. Actually, pretty good DPS with the rapid missiles. Pretty good DPS with the rapid missiles, and you can use this ship for a long range build with rapid missiles because it actually works really well. Okay, now let's take a look at the normal long range missiles. 1264.59 DPS with the normal classic PvP Orthrus build. 68.47 kilometer is the missile range with one ballistic control, although you can technically use two if you're in a fleet. However, I will still use a capacitor battery on this thing because it's actually more useful. Okay, 1039 DPS without the explosive missiles, and with full DPS mode, 1544.85 DPS, which is still, I would say, really solid for a long-range kite build. And with dual ballistic controls, 1152.35 cold, with the explosive missiles, the DPS is 1402.37. With one ballistic control, the DPS is 1714.20, and with the second ballistic control, it's 2034.45 at 68.47 kilometers, which is honestly really nice. Should really be impacting a lot on battlecruisers and battleships. After all, the Orthos is a cruiser made to be used against big ships like battlecruisers and battleships. Now, I couldn't fit a micro updrive or an afterburner, so let's just quickly test out the explosion radius and explosion velocity with the normal medium missiles. 133, 35.73 meters, okay, in the precision mode of course. 109 and 17 meters, and with both computers active, 9.64 meters to 120 meters per second. Now basically it's around the same as the Typhoon 2 using rapid missile launchers. Very interesting result. Very interesting result. However, no micro updrive, so don't use a build like this if you don't have a propulsion module. A build on the Orthos without a propulsion module is not good. Okay, and now with the torpedo troll Orthos, 1.5 kilometers per second with the afterburner, which is really solid, faster than the Ashimo. It's not as fast as some of the other cruisers, but it's still quite speedy. 1421.99 DPS with the torpedo launchers at 22.05 kilometers, which is, you know, not that bad. And with the precision mode, the DPS will be a little bit lower, but the damage application on the torpedoes will be increased. 36.54 meter is the explosion radius, velocity 159 meter per second, which is really nice. And with that DPS, you could technically hurt cruisers a lot with the Orthos, especially if you have them webbed and scrambled, which means that they will be slowed down. 1738.31 DPS with the explosive missiles, okay, which is still really solid, and that is with the ballistic control active. And with dual ballistic controls, this is the actual torpedo troll Orthos build that I used to fly with. And let's take a look at the DPS at the moment. It's 1595.31, okay. Explosive missiles loaded in, it's 1577.49. First ballistic control, 1109.44, and the second ballistic control, 2290.89. You know, that's actually, you know, pretty solid DPS for the Orthos. I do not want to get hit by this, by the way. This shreds. This is actually insane. And I can actually increase that if I feel like it. I can get 3.5 thousand DPS with the Orthos, but I will have to sacrifice missile velocity, I'll have to sacrifice explosion velocity and explosion radius, but I don't want to do that, so I'll just keep the current setup. Having better explosion radius and velocity is actually more important than having raw DPS on missiles, because having high DPS is pointless if you can't apply that DPS to your target. So that's why I like to combine all of these different rigs to get to a point where everything works really balanced out and where everything works like flawlessly. And I got to the point with this Orthos. So, how do we use the missile implant? So, against shields, like I said before, use thermal or EM. Against armors and hulls, explosive or kinetic. So throughout this little video you will see me swap between EM and explosive missiles. Basically, I'm trying to do maximum possible damage to the target. In PvP, that can be countered if your target is using reactive hardeners, which are really good against single and dual damage type weapons. So in the case that your target has a reactive hardener, then don't use a single damage type on the missile implants. Then you go back and switch to the normal omni damage missile mode. However, once you break the tank off your target, then you can use basically the missile that's going to be doing the most damage to the target, which requires you to know the resistance holes of ships, and that requires a little bit of learning in EVE. One of the more fun things to do, actually. Never thought that I'd say that learning would be fun, but it actually is, when you have to aim to do as much damage as possible towards your target, to kill the target in a very short time frame. And with missile launchers, with missile rigs and implants, you can actually learn that very easily. Now I'm using torpedo launchers in the first test here, and honestly it's fun. I fell in love with the missile implant when I was flying the Cyclone 2 command. Now the difference between the Cyclone 2 command and the Orthos in the missile rate of fire, if I can say it like that, is that the missile velocity on the Orthos makes the missile cycle time look slow. On the Cyclone 2 command, you could launch 4 or 5 missiles before they actually start impacting the target. With the Orthos, you can't really do that because the missiles move at the 100% velocity of the normal missiles that other ships have because of the robots on the Orthos. So you might feel like the rate of fire on the torpedo launchers, on rapid missiles, is low. However, that's not the case. The missiles are just really fast, so that's basically one of the reasons why it might feel like that. On the Cyclone 2 command, I got the missile rate of fire up to 2.2 seconds, and I think it's roughly the same on the Orthos. However, the Cyclone 2 command has a big advantage over the Orthos. First off, it can use command burst modules, which will improve performance of webs, scramblers, missiles, shield boosters and things like that. On the Orthos, you can't really do that. However, the Orthos is a smaller target. It's a cruiser. I would say it's faster. However, I know some Cyclone 2 commands that are really fast, so the speed is comparable. They're around the same. But the Orthos will have better missile damage application. So those are basically the main differences between the Cyclone 2 command and the Orthos. And of course, one massive difference is the price. The Cyclone 2 command can work like the Orthos, in some cases actually can be better than the Orthos, for basically 3 times less, for 3 times less ISK. This thing is expensive. The Orthos used to be 10 billion. I think it's actually 3 billion now. I will check that out in real time here while running the mission here with the Orthos. So it's a cruiser. Let's go to cruisers. Faction cruisers. They're on the bottom. Well, it's okay. 2.9 billion. The cheapest is 2.9 billion, almost 3 billion, which is honestly not that bad. While the Cyclone 2 command is at 1.5 billion. So both of these ships are very similar, and I think the Cyclone 2 command is the closest ship to the Orthros performance. The Bellicose cover tops, I really had much fun with that thing. I mean, I had fun with it. It's a nice ship. It's cheap. It gets the job done. That's a fact. However, the Bellicose 2 cover tops has a bonus on target painters, and if you want to basically maximize the DPS output on the Bellicose, you have to use target painters to apply more damage to a target. Because if you compare the missile performance between the Bellicose and the Orthos just blows it out of the water. That's the difference. Of course, the price difference is there, but if you want the best of the best missile stats, then the Orthos is the ship to go with. And if I want to use the Bellicose with maximum possible damage application and things like that, I have to use target painters. But if the target has stabs, then you will not be able to hold them. While with the Orthos, you don't really have to worry about target painters and damage application because you already have best missile stats in the game. So you can equip this ship with a lot of points and it will work because that's the way how you fit this ship. While on the Bellicos, in order to maximize the damage output and in order to have a chance to hold anything, you really have to go and sacrifice the medium slots for a lot of points. And of course the main difference in the range, the ship doesn't have to use a nanocore to have 45-kilometer range, while the Bellicos and other Court of Cruisers have to use a nanocore to extend the point range, which gives the ship a massive advantage on the LowSec hunting part. And I've used the ship primarily to hunt in LowSec because the Orthos is actually the ideal ship for the job. Although other ships can do the same thing, the Orthos is the easiest ship to go out and hunt. However, when I say easiest ship, I mean it's very easy to hold your target. It's not really easy to fly the thing. The Orthos has a high skill ceiling. One mistake and you can kiss the ship goodbye. I've learned that on my own skin. I think I lost 2 of them. I lost the first one when I messed up the warping and I got caught, which is okay, it happens, not a big deal. I made a horrific mistake and I paid the price for it. That's how Eve works. And the second time I think I lost the torpedo throw Orthos, which happened recently, because that thing requires you to orbit at the scrammer range away from webs. But I think I made a mistake. I didn't adjust the orbit and I flew right in the webs and the scrammer of a LowSec. Before I noticed that I was close to it, my ship got yeeted, but at the same time the LowSec got yeeted as well, so in the end we were ISK positive, but I wasn't really happy with my mistake. So one mistake and the Orthos goes boom. So yeah, the good ship for practice would be the Bellicos, because that thing is cheap. If you lose it, it's not a big deal, just buy a new one and you continue where you left off. With the case of the Orthos, if you lose it, yeah, it will hurt for a moment, but in the end, it's all part of the game, and it happens. I mean, couple Orthos losses with over like 4,000 kills or something like that. I'm not even mad at losing the ship. I'm more mad at myself for making the mistake, which is okay. We all learn and we all eventually make a mistake. It happens, not a big problem. So if you end up losing the Orthos, don't worry, it happens to everyone. Even happens to me. And I flew this thing for like over a year. I thought that actually I usually lose a ship with really dumb mistakes, honestly. And yeah, it's how I lose ships, with really dumb mistakes. But it's okay. Well then, this mission was actually really smooth. Now, the Orthos has a battleship level DPS, so it should clear missions in high sec really quickly. So if you don't like to fly battleships, if you find them boring, then the Orthos can actually replace a PvE battleship. Should get really nice clear times, and surprisingly, it can also be used AFK. And that means you can leave the ship on orbit and do something else, and you can come back and the mission will be done, or the wave should be done. The other ship that can do the same thing is the Typhoon 2, which is also a really good ship, one of my favorites, although unfortunately I'm not currently using it in PvP. I would love to, however. I would love to use the Typhoon 2 into PvP. I have plans for it. And I did specifically get the missile implants. Level 15, nothing special, not level 33 barrage level, but level 15 should be enough. The first set of stats, of secondary stats that you can get should be enough. Now I swapped the build for the long range missiles and I'm playing around with the precision mode to see how quickly it can blow up the small ships. It actually blows them up in one hit, which is actually really nice. It does some really good damage against smaller targets here. And technically you should be able to pop interceptors if you use the precision mode and if you use a guidance computer. However, if you're using the normal medium missiles on the Orthos, then your target will not be a frigate. Your target will be a cruiser, battlecruiser and battleship. It's very important to know the ships that you can engage with normal missiles. Also very important to know what ships to avoid. Now the Orthos, while being basically the best cruiser to hunt, it has its weakness. For example, ships with very good tracking, Apocalypse Striker, Macarial, they can track the Orthos orbiting at 40, 45, 35 kilometers. So in some cases you will have to go and swap the low slots for a tracking computer, and if you have to do that, I recommend that you go and equip a tracking computer general unit, which will improve the tracking disruptor a lot. Can make the turrets of the Macarial or Apocalypse Striker practically useless. So that's one of the ways how you can troll the battleships that can have enough tracking. Honestly, when I think about it, how mad I was really mad when implants were released. I think most of you know that. However, as time goes on, it did not really affect the game as I expected it would. It's going towards what I was thinking back then, but we have a couple months before that actually happens, if it ever happens, to be honest. However, I don't really see I don't really see it happening right now, which made me very confused. I was very confused, but I guess we will see what will happen. The general units can make a ship really interesting, and the tracking disruptor unit on the Orthos with a tracking disruptor can work really well, especially if you like to hunt solo. Then you don't really have to worry about any Macarial with a lot of tracking. Now I think it can be countered if the Macarial is using tracking computers, but the ship should technically survive 1 or 2 hits. It shouldn't do much damage if you have the tracking disruptor on the Orthos. I actually will test that out first with the RB core tops, and then with the Orthos, although I haven't been flying the Orthos that often lately. The RB core tops might be very fun with the tracking disruptor general unit. Now on this map, I think I always say this, but on this map, be very careful not to fly close to the station, because the station has a very bugged hitbox and you don't want to get stuck in that. If you get stuck, it's really difficult to get out of that. So let me just go and take the range away from that thing. If I had the tracking disruptor unit a long time ago, I would be able to go and shoot down a lot of other battleships with the Orthos. So it's really important to know the ships that you can take and the ships that you can't take. Now the micro warp drive velocity that you get out of this thing is pretty nice. So for most cases against missile ships and against ships that don't have good tracking, it should be enough. Now here I swapped to the rapid missiles. I had a lot of fun using the normal medium missiles on this thing. They work really well. Now it's time to see how the rapid missiles will work. If you use the build with dual guidance computers, then you don't have to worry about interceptors. You don't have to worry about anything small like that. You just yeet those little things without a problem. And that's actually, I think, the most ridiculous missile stats that I've seen in this game were on the Orthos, and I love it. I think the Mordu frigate can actually get even more insane stats. I haven't been flying the Garmor a lot. That's because I'm not a frigate pilot. I have a terrible internet connection, and the little frigates require a lot of a good connection, honestly. So, but I will actually do it. I will go and see what type of missile stats I will get on the Mordu frigate. I will laugh if I can get like 0.5 meter explosion radius. That would be actually ridiculous, honestly. That's going to be very ridiculous. And the question remains, what's the damage application on that? Is it going to even hit the target? I mean, I have questions that I need answers to. And I think with the Garmor I will actually do that. I think I'll have fun. Should be a ridiculous result. And over here, I like to make ridiculous builds. And you know what's also hilarious? I actually use the same builds on the main game, on my main account. What I show you here is what I actually roll in the main game. And so far I can tell you it works. It works really well. Most errors are pilot errors that happen. Now, speaking of pilot errors, there are some things that you should never do with the Orthos. For example, never go and brawl with a ship that has web bonuses, has neutralizer bonus, Nosferatu bonus. If you do that, you lose the Orthos. And I've seen a lot of players yeet their Orthos against a Belgorn or Vindicator at 0 for some reason. And of course, you can imagine what happens when they do that. However, if you kite those ships, they can't do anything. Unless they have tracking computers, but in that case you already have a tracking disruptor, so they really can't do much against a kiting Orthos. That's how that's how you should fly the Orthos, as a long-range kite ship. It's built for that, and it's the easiest way to build this ship. Now, with the torpedo troll build, I like it, but oh man, that's super risky to fly that thing with the torpedo build. It's good, it's really good, but risky. So I think for most players the risk will outweigh the actual benefit with that build. So in the end, a long-range, medium-range build with medium missiles or rapid missiles is going to be the best way to build this ship. Now, are the rapid missiles here in this little test doing good damage? Honestly, I would say yes. I would say they are doing some really decent damage. However, you have to keep in mind that rapid missiles are mostly against smaller ships like cruisers, destroyers, frigates. So it might take a while if you use the rapid missiles against a battleship. However, I've really noticed that being really obvious. The rapid missiles seem to be doing some decent damage against the current ships that I'm testing here. And yeah, I think the Orthos can replace a battleship in high sec. Might not get like 10,000 DPS or something like that, but it does a pretty good job on clearing the missions for a ship that's mostly built for PvP. It's actually really impressive. I use my Macariel for missions sometimes when I don't have anything to do, and I clear them really quickly. After all, I mean, the barrage implant and, you know, maxed out skills help a lot with that, but I personally have more fun with missiles in PvE than with any other weapon system. I know drones are good. Drones are really good for missions, but I don't really have much fun with drones in missions. Oh, they have their own thing that is making them really useful. Well then, we are slowly nearing the end of this video, and I'm thinking, what other ship can be very similar to the Orthos in performance? Because I currently don't know any other ship that has these missile stats. I could technically make other ships close to the Orthos, but I don't think that they will reach the same performance though. The only ship that comes to my mind is the Typhoon 2, but that's a battleship, so we are comparing a cruiser with a battleship in terms of missile performance, and that is interesting. Well then, that was a very, I would say, a very nice run with this little cruiser. The Orthos will probably remain one of my best performing cruisers of all time for a while. Not really sure what other cruiser will surpass this ship. There's a chance that Triglavians will surpass my Orthos when they get released at one point. They will be released, don't worry, they will. They have to be. And I think the Triglavians have a good chance to actually outperform my Orthos in terms of the overall success that I had with this ship. Or perhaps even the strategic cruisers have a really solid chance to outperform the Orthos. But with that being said, hope that you enjoyed. It was a very lovely run with the Orthos. I really like this ship. I actually like it even more with the missile implant now. And I think I will be doing more PvP roams with the Orthos with missile implants, just like I did with the barrage Macariel. So with that being said, hope that you enjoyed. Stay safe, fly safe, and I'll see you next time.